Namaskar. Today's our topic is uh, Namaskar. Namaskar. I'm Dr. Nalini Avinash Wagmare, working as a assistant professor at Tirak Maharashtra Vidyapeeth, Pune. Today's our topic is related to Sufism. In last lecture, we have studied related to what we say Bhakti movement. So that is in Hindu religious reform movement. Sufism is a Muslim reform movement. So Sufism in India, under that we have to cover these things. What is the meaning of Sufism? Sufism in India, main teachings of Sufism, Sufi sects in India, impact of Sufism on Indian society, conclusion and some references. Then Sufism was derived, first of all we have to study what is the meaning of Sufism. Various people given a different opinion about this Sufism. So actually Sufi was derived from the word Safi, which means sure. Those saints among the Muslims who advocated a life of purity and renunciation were called Sufi. Even Sufi are called as a pure or love. In Sufism, many orders like Chisti, Suharwadi, Firdausi, is even Qadri, etc. Music used to please the God. Means how the bhakti means towards devotion towards God. So here music is the main instrument. Through music they please the God and get the near to God. Build brotherhood, peace, love among the mass in India. This Sufism played a very important role. Bhakti movement in India in Hinduism, parallel here Bhakti movement, here Sufism, both are contemporary parallel. One is a Hindu religion, another one is a Muslim religion. This type of both religious reform movement started in Hinduism, Bhakti movement, in Muslimism, Sufism. So Sufism in pure word we call as a sure or pure or love or devotion. The emergence of Sufism in Arab and Persia led to the creation of a unique consciousness in medieval world. Though Sufism emerged as a social protest against the emergence of the kingship in the Islamic world, it spread as an important social movement as well. Sufism as a social movement entered India during the last decade of the 12th century. Mysticism constitutes but an indispensable part of every religion in the world. With the natural religions based on the evaluation of human culture and thought, such as Hinduism, it beginning, whereas in the case of created religions, such as Christianity and Islam, it emerged as a schism against the institutionalized or dogmatic creeds. The Islamic mysticism known as Tasawwuf or Sufism was as old as Islamic itself. It was no doubt born in the bosom of Islam. Then again the meaning, what is the meaning of Sufism? So here the historians hold different opinions regarding the origin of Sufism, the word Sufi. One view is that the word Sufi was derived from the word Safa, which means pure. Those saints among the Muslims who advocated a life of purity and renunciation were called Sufi. Another view is that the word Sufa, whose meaning is wool, those saints who put on wool clothes after the death of the Prophet Muhammad came to be known as Sufis. Still another view is that the Sufi is taken from the Greek word Sophia, whose meaning is knowledge. Still another view is that those persons were called Sufis who took shelter outside the mosque constructed by the Prophet Muhammad at Medina and got devoted to God. So here the every author, every historian, every reformer here, what is scholars given a different opinion on Sufism. All these derivatives have been beautifully summed up in the following manner. Sufism teach how to purify one's life, oneself, improve one's morals, and build up one's inner and outer life in order to attain perpetual bliss. Its subject matter is the purification of the soul, and its end or aim is the attainment of eternal felicity and bliss goodness. Sufi is a code of conduct based on the knowledge of divine laws and certainly not any form of ulm or knowledge or rasm, customs and traditions. The four outstanding characteristics which are mark a Sufi. A life that is genuine and straightforward, and a life which holds in respect and the divine laws. Respect for elders and affection towards all alike. That is the one beautiful principle we find in Sufism. Total renunciation of any desire for fame and glory. Uh, That point also noted here. Face the challenge of nafs, the lower self, the animal spirit soul. Then what was the, in generally we call Sufism is a religious reform movement, and Sufis means purification in personal and other life and spend life in a very good manner. The advent of Sufis to India debates what is the Sufism in India we find. The advent of Sufis to India dates back to the Arab conquest of Sindh. After the establishment of Muslim rule in northern India, the Sufis from the Muslim countries of Central Asia began to migrate to this country in large numbers. Obviously, to reap the harvest of military conquest by gaining converts to Islam from among the Bangladesh. They moved about in the robes and style of Indian sadhus and established their hermitages at a number of places. They set up their abode in the residential quarters or colonies of the low caste on the periphery of the Hindu towns. The first object was to win their love and confidence and reconcile them to Alan Rule. They persuaded them to embrace Islam on merit. The Sultanate Delhi was confined not only a part of India for most of the time, but the Sufis spread themselves throughout the country and carries on peaceful propaganda of Islam. Like Hindu religious reform movements, the Sufis also Islamic religious reform movements. But both the reforms movements main objective, we don't want to compare it, but objective is welfare of the human being. Then main teachings of Sufis. Sufism sprang from the doctrine of Wahdat ul Wujud, the unity of being. It means in plain language that God is the unity behind all plurality and reality behind all phenomenal appearance. It emphasizes that there is nothing in existence except God, and union with God results from an intuitive contact with Him and a complete detachment from the world and all that is other than God. This doctrine was propounded by Sheikh Muhyiddin Arabi. This doctrine became an acknowledged belief of the Muslim Sufis in India. Love has been given the greatest significance in Sufism. Sufism believes in the theory of oneness of God. Even they regard this world as God. They consider God as the beloved and the soul, a lover who runs after the beloved, giving up all the pleasures of life. They also feel that God is immortal beauty which can be attained by music of love. Hence, beauty of music has been given great importance in this religion. That's why one characteristic of Sufism is that they give more importance to music. Through music, they please the God and they get the salvation also. Sufis believe that there are three tendencies in a man: physical, intellectual, and spiritual. A true guru is needed to guide a man so that he may attain a balance between these three tendencies. A Sufi lays great stress on gurus and leads his disciplines to the true path of knowledge and salvation by his conduct. Then main teachings of Sufis. Sufis are against materialism and sensual pleasures. They lead a simple and controlled life. They not live in a very high luxurious type of life. According to one version, a Sufi had to pass through 10 stages of dedication to God before he could attain communion with Him. These were Tawbah, dependence, Wara, abstinence, Juhud, pity, Fakr, poverty, Sabr, patience, Shukr, gratitude, Kaf, fear, Riza, submission of divine will. The Sufi voluntarily renounced materialistic pursuits and shunned not only government service but also many contact with the rulers and administrators. They imbibed a love for humanity and believed in poverty, vegetarian diet, pacifism, and non-violence. The goal of Sufi was emotional communion with God and service of humanity. Some of the Sufi saints observed celibacy, while others married and lived ordinary householders. Sufis mostly depend on fatha, unasked for charity, though some of them took up to the cultivation of waste land as means of their livelihood. Of course, it was never their intention to create a class of parasites on the society. The Sufis lived in a hermitage called khankas, monasteries. How nuns lived in caves in ancient times. So the Sufis are very vegetarian diet, believed in there are non-violence one. They want to spread good thoughts in this society. In Sufi sects in India, the period from 1200 to 1500 AD is considered as a period of permeation of Sufi thought in India. During that period, a number of new sects and movements were started, which formed a midway between Hinduism and Islam. Abul Fazl mentioned 14 orders to silsilas of Sufis in India. Of those orders, the Chishti, the Suharwadi, the Naqshbandi, the Qadri, the Qalandar, and the Sustri orders were important. The Chishti order, which is very famous in India, among the saints of Chishti cult, Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia, Baba Farid, Yesu Daraz were famous personalities. They added to development of Sufism by their simple life and high thinking. Sheikh Muhammad Chishti, the founder of Chishti Silsila in India, declared that helping poor and needy people was the highest form of religion devotion. That was taught by the Chishti follower, even Chishti founder. The Chishti Sufis discarded the concept of social hierarchy. In their khankas, they practiced social equality. This attracted large number of people to their khankas. The Chishti Sufis accepted and propagated the dignity of labor. They propagate that being poor was not a sin, but it was a matter of pride. Most of Chishti Sufis remained poor. Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia was the most popular Sufi saint. His times in India, he opened his doors for commoners, rich, poor, learned, ignored, citizen, villagers, soldiers, freemen, and slaves. The Chishti Sufi cultivated fasting in order to weaken and control their basic desires. The Chishti established themselves at Ajmer and some other towns of Rajasthan and in some parts of Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Bengal, Orissa, and Deccan. The Chishti Sufis were used vernacular language as medium of communication with the common people and respect the sentiments of the latter. It was the contribution of Sufi Khankas that the Hindavi language emerged as the common language. Beside the organization of the music party, Sama was a regular of the Sufis since the music was a source of solace and part of Indian culture. A large number of people flocked to the Sufi Khankas to attend such type of program. Moreover, the Chishti Sufis believed in the principle of non-violence. Their principle of unity of being brought Islam and Hinduism together. So, when the Bhakti movement and the Islam attack on India, these Bhakti reformer Sufis brought the social harmony, cultural harmony, religious harmony built in the society. This point we have to always keep in our mind. Then Suharwadi order. Suharwadi order was founded by Sheikh Sihabuddin Suharwadi. He sent disciples to India who settled down in northwestern India. One of them was Sheikh Bahabuddin Zakaria Suharwadi, who was the founder of the Suharwadi order in India. Sindh and Multan were the centers of Suharwadi cult. Later on, it flourished in Punjab, Gujarat, Bihar, Bengal, and other provinces. Jalaluddin Ahmad Kabir, Jalaluddin Tabrizi, Sayyid Jalal, Wali Ullah, etc. were the significant saints of this cult. The saints of Suharwadi order lead comfortable lives. They made the ample provision for their families. They even employed teachers on handsome salaries for the education of their sons. They believed that there was no harm in possessing and dispensing of wealth if the heart was detached. The contact of Surwadi with the court and camp kept them aloof from the masses because the royal Surwadis are under the royal patronage. That's why the masses are away from them. The Surwadi provided separate accommodation to their selected followers in their kankas. They neglected the people in general and paid special attention to the rich followers. The Surwadi expenses in non-Muslim environment. It worked well in Muslim surroundings and served the spiritual needs of the Muslim community. But when it came to non-Muslim lands, its progress stopped. Then Qadri order. The Qadri order was established Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani of Baghdad. The other significant saints of this branch of Sufism were Sheikh Abdul, Sheikh Musa, Sheikh Abdul Qadir. The eldest son of Shah Jahan, Dara Shikoh was also the follower of Qadri branch of Sufism. The followers of this order were opposed to music and singing. They wore green turbans. We find when we visit to these dargahs in any parts of India, that time we find this type of the chistis as well as the green turbans were Qadris also. Then Firdausi order. The Firdausi order was a branch of Suhrwadi order. It was popularized by Sheikh Harf Uddin, who was a disciple of Khwaja Nizamuddin Firdausi. He put great emphasis on the service of humanity as a part of his monastic discipline. He wanted his followers to serve the needy by pen, tongue, wealth, and position. The nearest way to reach God was to help the needy and offer a helping hand to the downtrodden. That was the principles of this Firdausi order. Then Naqshbandi order. This order was founded in India by the Khwaja Pir Muhammad. It was popularized in India by Khwaja Baki Billah, who came to Delhi from Kabul in the last years of the reign of Akbar. Naqshbandi order reached its climate under the leadership of Sheikh Ahmad Sirhi, who was the most distinguished disciple of Baki Billah. He opposed both to the Hindus and Shias. He was strongly in favor of following Shariat in practice and spirit. The philosophy of Sirhi greatly influenced Aurangzeb, in whose reign it became an instrument for the propagation of religion, persecution of the non-Muslims. Another saint of Naqshbandi order was Shah Waliullah. He was notable poet of Persian and Urdu. Then Kshatri order. It was during the Lodi dynasty that Shah Abdullah brought the Kshatri order into India. The saints of this order tried to bring Hindus and Muslims nearer by putting emphasis on the similarity of spiritual thought and practices. There were orders which existed in India. They included Madariya, Guzmar, Jaliya Mausa, Sohagiya, Wahhabi, but those orders had very little influence on the people. Apart from the Sufis, there was a class of Muslim ascetics known as Qalandars, who were allied with the Chistis and Suhrwadi orders. They were wandering dervishes living in selection, renaissance, and poetry. They did not organize religious orders or establish spiritual centers. Some of them demonstrated their spiritual power through magical and occult practices. Then we find it briefly about these 4-5 orders in Sufism. Then what's their impact on India society? Sufism was responsible for the spread of Muslim culture among the masses in various parts of India. The concept of equality and brotherhood of men preached by Sufis attracted the lower sections of the Hindus, those who converted to Islam at that time. There was no discrimination between high and low in khankas of the Chistis. Because of that, people are so many Hindus downtrodden are attracted towards that and converted also. Themselves, they are converted at that time. The common medium of expression or dialogue was important for communication. That led to the use of Hindi words and ultimately birth of Urdu as a separate language because of this Sufism. The Sufis put emphasis on the unity of God and superiority path of devotion over rituals and ceremonial pilgrimages and fast. that affected the minds of those Indians who became the pioneers of the Bhakti movement. They raised their voices against all vices such as drinking, gambling, slavery, etc. They were instrumental in maintaining the social equilibrium of the medieval society. The Sufi saints preached the gospel of brotherhood of man. Because of these things, both Hindus and Sufis united. Because of the Sufis thought till today also, some Hindus also visited to these dargahs for prayer, for getting salvation, for peace of mind purpose also. Uh, there is the Sufis preach the gospel of brotherhood of man. The Sufis borrowed a lot from Indian environment. Baba Farid made his contribution to Punjabi literature. The writings of Utpan, Majhan, Jayasi, and Nur Muhammad are in Awadhi language. The Sufi saints added to the numerical strength of the Muslim population by encouraging conversion to Islam through peaceful and non-violent means. They played a great role in building the social and cultural life of the Muslims. They set into motion the forces for the rapid Indianization of Islam as well as Muslim. Now, cultural exchange, religious exchange, food exchange, even dress code also we find because of Sufism. Some Hindus also started to wear dress. Even some Muslims also started to wear sari. So, dress code, food, exchange of culture, thoughts, literature, language also arise because of that Urdu language, because of Sufis. There's a great contribution to India. They define the ethical standards, build the moral character of the Muslim youth, and help them in developing healthy and rational attitude towards life. The Sufis played a significant role in the educational advancement of the society. Their khanqahs became centers of knowledge and wisdom. The Sufi doctrine of Sulh, universal brotherhood, had a great humanistic appeal behind it, which crossed all religions, barriers, and developed fellow feelings between the Hindus and Muslims. The Bhakti reformers gave a helping hand to the Sufis in bringing about Hindu-Muslim unity. Then again, the impact of Sufism on Indian society. The Sufi saints and Bhakti reformers, both in general, were rewarded by the Indian masses, Hindus and Muslims alike. Thus, Hindu saints respected by the Muslims and Muslim saints adored by the Hindus became a popular phenomena of the medieval Indian social life. Because still today, because of a religious point, so many conflicts, so many confusions, so many revolt find in the society. If you go back to the medieval period, that time of the social harmony, cultural harmony, and simple life preached by the saints are very relevant to us till today to solve many of our problems. The way some of the Hindus intellectuals, without sacrificing their ancestral faith, developed a fondness for Sufi literature and shared their mystical experience with the Muslim divines, speaking highly of the broad-mindedness and Catholicity of the socio-cultural leadership of both the communities. It fostered the feelings of religious tolerance between the Hindus and Muslims and electrified the process of synthesis between their socio-cultural traits. The Sufis were true humanitarians and they performed several works of public welfare in order to serve humanity. They contributed a lot to the development of professional literature. Urdu flourished due to their support. Unlike the ulama, the Sufis not only believed in equality but also practiced in their life. That is also important. This brought them near the artisans and cultivators. The Sufi became the religious leader of peasants and not the ulamas. The Sufi played an important role promoting the feeling of religious tolerance among the Muslims. It exerted very wholesome influence of the attitude of the sultans. It greatly encouraged in bringing the Hindus and Muslims close together. It had a great liberalizing effect on the state policy of many Indian rulers. It was under the influence of Sufism that Shah Suri and Akbar and others gave up much of their orthodoxy and began to treat all their subjects alike. It also led the Hindus to penetrate the Muslim saints and the Muslim to their part began to show respect to Hindu gods and goddesses and saints. It created a spirit of tolerance and brought Hinduism, Islam near to one another. So that is the important points we have studied in Sufism, how cultural harmony, cultural exchange, religious thought, humanity, welfare of all, equality, social justice. Although this movement started in Islam, but that time to till today, it's brought a unity among the human beings. Just as Bhakti movement was popular among the Hindus during Delhi Sultanate, in the same way Sufi emerged among the Muslims. Although it emerged from the bosom of Islam, yet there was a great difference between the two. It is said that the Sufi cult came into existence in India before the 8th century. Several Sufi saints preached their principles in South and Sindh, but its real influence appeared in the 12th century. Although there were various branches of Sufi in India and abroad, only 5 branches of Sufism, such as very famous in India, Chishti, Suryavadi, Qadiri, Firdausiya, Naqshbandi, and Shatri, flourish in India. The Sufis removed the sternness of Islam and made it quite liberal. The attempts of the Sufis made Islam quite popular in India, and even Hindus felt attracted towards Islam. The Sufi saints removed fanaticism between the Hindus and Muslims and enhanced the religious feelings of love, tolerance, and equality. So, in this modern age, it is very necessary. Once again, we have to practice the Sufi saints' thoughts, Bhakti movement, reformers' thoughts to create the social harmony, welfare of all thoughts, which are very important in this globalized world. So these are the books you can refer for detailed study of this Sufism. R.S. Chaurasia's History of Medieval India. Then K.L. Khurana, Medieval India. V.D. Mahajan, History of India, Part 2, Medieval India. R.C. Majumdar, Delhi Sultanate. J.L. Mehta's Medieval Indian Society and Culture. Nilkant Shastri, Development of Religion in South India. Then Nizami's Ken Studies in Medieval Indian History and Culture. Then Rai Chaudhary, Social, Cultural and Economic History of India. Again, the Tarachand, the influence of Islam on Indian culture, which is very, very important. Every history student has to study this one for more detail. Thank you.